Hello, hello, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the show. We are back, new season. I'm your host, GB with uppr90plus. So glad that all of you can make it in this today to see us and come by and stop by and visit. Have a fantastic show tonight. We are discussing the state of the women's football game, man, as far as what is going on around the world with women football. As you know, we have the World Cup going on. We've got a lot of events going on. We got a lot of information for you tonight. I don't want to have my guest waiting too long, so I'm going to bring her on, Miss Kelly of Queen of the Midfield. We've had her on prior to, but tonight we're going to bring her in, and we are going to discuss about the women's game.
Hey, GB. How
Hey,
are you?
Kelly. Good evening. How are you? Glad to
Good
see you.
evening.
Glad to see you. Hope all is well. Hope all is well.
All is well and happy
Excellent.
Women's World Cup to you.
Yes, happy women's man. Listen, I'm losing sleep, man, big time.
Yeah, it's
Losing
tough.
sleep.
I've worked from a home office for more than a decade and I'm a very productive worker, but I tell everyone that all bets are off when it's the World Cup or the Olympics.
That is
You
correct.
don't know what you're going to get. And and right now they're getting a sleepy Kelly.
Oh, okay. So yes.
Getting up for
So as
those
far
early
as
matches.
everything going on. Oh boy, I think we might have lost her for a second. So she'll come back here. Let's see. She's coming back in. All right. There is another glitch again. Don't know what's going on with that, but we'll make do and keep it moving. So hope all is good as I stated. And thank you for coming in, first of all, to talk about the women's game. With like you stated, the World Cup is going on, and there's a lot of side stories to the teams that are actually in the World Cup. Not just about their particular country, not just necessarily about the individuals that are in the country, but there's a lot of side stories about what these federations are doing around the world for the women's game that we want to talk about tonight. You know, um, so let's start with that. Let's start with that. So, talk to me first of all, Kelly. Let's talk about your experience first of all in Guam when you played. As far as your federation, how was it at that time for you? So let's talk about the past. As far as the funding for the women,
Mhm.
as far as any type of the rights and things like that. But how did they take care of you all as footballers, as women, when you were on the national
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a great question, and it's a question that I answer with with deep emotion and respect for what all of the players were doing at that time.
team?
So
Right.
just for time frame, I graduated from high school in 1991. Went off to college, played at University of San Francisco and University of Hawaii before returning to Guam and then playing for the Guam national team for 9 years until I was about 33 years old. And that would have been, oh, sorry, I was 30 years old, and that would have been in 2003 when I stopped playing.
Okay.
So I played for Guam from the early to mid 90s through early 2003. And this was not unique for the women's program necessarily in Guam, but football was a very young sport in Guam at the time I started playing it.
Okay.
We had a really dedicated and passionate group of people who were organizing it and working every day to bring it to the next level. But we had very little funding, very few resources, just a lot of interest in the beautiful game and a lot of people who wanted to play. But again, to put that in even greater perspective, Guam is a territory of fewer than 200,000 people. And
Mhm.
when we were putting together our women's national team, our women's national program, we had fewer than 100, maybe 120 players to select from the entire
Oh,
island, right? That's the size of
wow.
our program. So
Wow.
we were getting ready to start competing with other teams. We played in the Asian Football Confederation. Excuse me. So we played in Asia, and we were getting ready to play international friendlies, and we were putting together teams. And when some of the U.S. women's national team 99ers talk about having to stitch their own, you emblems onto their jerseys, and
Hmm.
when I hear the Jamaican players talk about having to raise money for their travels, we were in that same boat.
Right.
There was not money being thrown at us to train and go compete. Most of us were working full-time jobs, and we trained part-time as we could. And despite the desire to have a great women's program, there simply weren't funds available then.
Okay.
So it required, players to not only maintain their livelihoods aside from football and train to be good footballers, but then also to raise the resources and raise the money to go off to be able to play football. And I'm not, I don't regret that was the state of things then, because we were grassroots, and it was fun and exciting in its own way. Now,
Very
since
nice.
then, Guam has received support from FIFA to develop both its women's and men's programs.
Okay.
And many more resources are available to players these days on Guam. And I think one of the, potentially we could call it an outcome from that, is that at one time.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. We have some kind of glitch
sorry.
going on. I don't know why it's interfering, but we'll bring her back in. There you are. You're back
Am I
now.
back? Okay.
Back.
What was the last thing I said before I?
You were talking about the funding for the women's team.
But it's grown, and we can point to some of the results of that, in that just a few years ago, and by a few I mean about 20. At one point, the Guam women's program was ranked 66th in the world.
Oh, wow.
Based on our performance in the early 2000s.
Man. Wow.
Yeah, and there are some teams right now in the World Cup that were ranked, before entering the World Cup, they were ranked lower than that. So Guam really did put its money where its mouth was, and invest in programs that are starting to achieve on the national stage. Will we ever be able to compete with a United States or a Germany? That wouldn't be a fair expectation.
Right.
But Guam has come a long way, as have all women's programs throughout the world.
Okay, and that's another thing that I wanted to bring that up is because Philippines qualified in your region. So just hearing you speak about that, I mean, what those ladies are going through there, and just getting up to standards, and really, I guess I want to hone in on it, is that people are just now realizing that these countries have made it to the World Cup, but it's been a process, a very long process to get to the point of even qualifying for the World Cup. And I commend FIFA for broadening the World Cup brackets to allow these smaller countries to get in. So I mean, I commend them for that piece. That's wonderful. As far as how the money now from FIFA trickles down to the countries, for those of you that don't know, when the World Cup comes to you qualify, the money comes from FIFA to your federation. And of course, it's a streamlined process. Everything legality-wise is on the books. And then the money funnels down in the correct way down to the team for facilities, to take care of any travel, things like that, and getting to the World Cup. So what's been going on is, of course, these federations in the countries are where technically they're like the middle person to get to the team, and funds have not been appropriated, that we're finding out now, going on for years actually, but it's now come to a head at the World Cup where monies are not being appropriated to the team. And I'll use, of course, Jamaica, for those that don't know. These young ladies did not have money to catch a flight to get to the World Cup. So the Bob Marley Federation, led by Cedella Marley, which is Bob Marley's oldest daughter, she is CEO. Once she found out about it, which of course it wasn't known until maybe 2 days prior to them supposed to be in Australia and New Zealand, that they didn't have flights. The monies from the Federation, Jamaica Federation, never came. Cedella Marley took her personal assistant and herself, and they booked individual flights for the players. So if you're taking a flight to Australia, as maybe Kelly and I would be doing as a person, just going on vacation, you might have a Jamaica national player sitting next to you in coach to catch a flight. The most that they had on one flight might have been two. They had to book flights, maybe, traveling maybe 4 or 5 connections on some just to get the players there. They traveled separately. So you have instances like this where the players should be enjoying their time when they get there. But once they land, and it's just not the Jamaica players, it might be the Philippines, might have been the South Africa, even the English national team, the US team, there's a mindset that you need to be in when you get ready to play. And when that mindset is disrupted, it now affects you on the pitch as well, as far as your level of play on the pitch. Because of course, in your mind, you just went through all of these processes to now get to play, and now you're in your safe haven, and some of these players can't perform because of all of this stress that they've already gone through. So is it fair? Okay, some might say, as a player, you should be strong-minded. Okay, but what point do you have to say that I got to the World Cup with my team, and if, say for instance, I'm a manager, Kelly. I got my team here. I coached my butt off to get them here, and they can't perform because of all the sidebar issues going on. That their mind is not here and available for the game. They lose 3 games and they go home.
Well, I
So,
would say that if a situation like that affected training and rest time,
mhm,
I would be livid.
yeah.
There's no way around that.
Okay.
However, world-class athletes do world-class things.
Correct.
And I think every woman on those pitches these past 2 weeks have demonstrated they are world-class athletes. And I don't pretend to speak for them, but I think they'd be comfortable with me saying something along the lines of, come hell or high water, I'm going to be on that pitch and I'm going to give it my best. And even without the perfectly paved, smooth path to the match, most of us who train for that moment, we're ready to play.
Right.
We're there. I mean, if it comes to, nutrition, if we can't eat, if we can't train, and if we can't sleep, then what I'm saying doesn't apply. But overcoming adversity to get to the tournament, that's what they've been doing for the past 8 years, right? They're ready
Yes.
for it.
Right.
Now, and that's not to, give a free pass to people who are not
Mhm.
properly handling the funds that are intended for the teams. There definitely needs to be accountability. We saw when the indictments came out at FIFA several
Right.
years ago that people, had been putting a good face to their efforts, and their intentions were not noble.
Right.
And I think that, there's a higher level of scrutiny now. And we've just got to keep setting that bar higher and higher. There is a lot of money in football across
Yes.
the globe, and when it's intended for national play and for national programs, we should have a greater magnifying lens on that money, making sure it goes where it's intended.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And it's nice to see though that the ones that have taken the money and not given it to these programs, it kind of backfired on them, because what they thought was happening, as I was stating about the mindset, would throw these ladies off, is total opposite.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of given now energy to the ladies to go and strive forward and say, listen, don't worry, we don't need the money. We don't need what you're doing. We're going to go out here and we're going to take it to the pitch. As footballers like you and myself, when you're on the pitch, you take the game and you boss the pitch. You don't wait for things to happen, you make it happen. And it's wonderful to see that these smaller countries that have gotten in, they know they're there and they have taken their advantage. Normally in other sports, it might be, say for instance, college basketball, you got the 16 seed playing the 1 seed. And all of a sudden, they get blown out by 30 points because they're just not there. In football, it's not like that at all. Once you're on the pitch on any given day, you can get beat.
Sure.
You can get beat. And it's wonderful to see that the smaller countries have stepped up and said, it doesn't matter who's across on the other half of the pitch. We're playing our style of football. We're playing our game, and we're going to go ahead and bring it and represent our country in this World Cup, and we're going to represent our country well. You know.
I think that there was concern when there was an expansion to 32
Yes.
teams.
Yes.
That it would be too one-sided, and I hope that everybody can leave this World Cup, regardless of where things go from this point forward, understanding that no, we're ready for a 32 team field at the Women's World Cup. This has been phenomenal. It's been so much fun to watch.
Yes.
Of course, you don't want to see blowouts. You never want to see blowouts. It happens, and it did happen. But even though, a couple of the teams that were on the suffering end of some lopsided scores, they did some pretty impressive stuff too. And I think that they've walked away with, a little bit of a confidence boost that they belonged there.
Yes, they did. And a couple of teams that were part of the blowout wins are no longer in the World Cup.
Right.
So again, back to
any given day.
The group stage. Some national teams rest their best player on the second or third game or the last game, and sometimes it backfires. And for some countries, that's exactly what happened. So we just wanted to touch base a little bit about the World Cup, what's going on there as far as that aspect, as far as the money wise. How does it all work? As you stated, I'm hoping that afterwards, when they assess everything, and they finally do track where the money ended up, which I'm quite sure that's what's going on now, that they will hand down some indictments and get things finalized. But, it's a process. This is the first 32 team field. So now there's a new process now to handle that. So, hopefully they'll get that together. And the same thing, is getting ready to happen on the men's side. They're expanding that field as well. We'll have the smaller countries in. So hopefully that will take place as well. So moving from the World Cup now, as far as let's pick some countries here that have impressed you in the World Cup, I should say. What do you have? Give me your top three. Give me your top three countries.
Okay, so first of all, let me say that I only feel comfortable speaking to and about my direct observations. So if I didn't watch a match, I don't want to comment on it.
No,
if I haven't seen a team play, I don't want to comment on that. So I might be leaving out some worthy candidates here. But I will say that the two teams that I'm celebrating for, and that that gave me the feels, two teams, Morocco and Jamaica. And hey, listen, I'm not saying Jamaica just to butter you up, my friend. But
appreciate that.
It harkens back to the conversation we just had.
Yes.
Both of those teams had to overcome some significant adversity to get where they were. Morocco, culturally, the women there, from the day they were born and wanted to touch a football, have had to fight some battles. Yes. And it's just beautiful to see them out there playing beautifully, right? Just playing wonderfully. And Jamaica, of course, you just described the story. They ended up at the last minute having to find their way to Australia and New Zealand for their tournament. There's a saying in governance that is, and I should not say governance. There's a saying in the world that goes something along the lines of, if you want something done, ask a busy mom to do it, because she knows how to get it done, right? And I feel as though the same could be said for if you want to see someone really soar and shine, put a blockade in front of a female athlete. Female athletes are one of the class of people. There are many classes of people discriminated against and treated unfairly.
Yeah,
but
again,
female
apologize
athletes,
about the technical difficulty. We're having some issues, so apologize about that.
Am I back?
All right, you're back.
All right. So I think that female athletes have had to overcome a lot of adversity just to get where they are in any sport, in any competition. Every sport going back to the modern Olympics. And so I think that, Morocco and Jamaica really embody that spirit of, hey, look, we're footballers. We just happen to be women. You're creating barriers for us because
Yes.
of that. And we're just going to show you that we're better than that. And we're going to come out here and play our hearts out and impress the world.
Very nice. Very nice. Love those two teams, as you
Okay,
know.
how about you? Tell me about the teams that have impressed you the most.
I am really impressed with Japan. Japan has been a team for me. Their structure of play, they have not changed. So they're kind of playing the style that I thought Brazil would have played, as far as having a solid structure and everyone knows what needs to happen. So it doesn't matter, who's on the other side of the pitch, they're still staying to their game. Um, they're scoring a lot of goals, first off. But it's not just necessarily one person. I mean, they have a young lady on the team that has five goals, but there's three other players that are scoring as well. But they're showing very very gritty game. They can play physical when they need to. They can play soft when they need to. They can play over the top, or they can play team build up. And I commend the coach. He doesn't really necessarily coach on the sidelines. He's really pointing to his players sometimes and just telling them what position when the attack comes, as far as where to be and defense. So he's not really pointing out, three or four players. He'll talk to each one individually and let them know, move up here, move up there. So I'm really impressed with their style of play. That's the first and foremost. You have
Well,
to
let
say the
me tell
Moroccan.
you your perhaps unbeknownst connection to the Japanese women's national team. I have played against Japan in a World Cup
Ooh,
qualifier.
okay.
Now, the good news is that the result of that match ended up being one of the lead paragraphs on the Wikipedia page about the Japanese national team, the women's national team. The
Wow.
bad news is it's because of how lopsided the score was when they beat us. so so the highest ever score in a World Cup qualifier match was Japan versus Guam. I was on the pitch for that match. It was 1997. We played in Guangzhou, China. It was the Asia Women's Championships, which that year was a
Okay.
World Cup qualifier. And it was Guam's first ever foray into an official
Wow.
sanctioned
Look at that.
tournament as a national
Look
team.
at that.
And Japan was our very first match. And we lost. You ready for it?
24, 25?
21 nil.
21.
Yeah. And for some of
Okay.
my teammates, it was the first time they'd ever played in a stadium. And
Okay.
it was a very large stadium. There were maybe 10,000 spectators in attendance. And when the match started, all we could hear was the boom, 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 the precision of the Japanese players' passes. It was so clinical even then. And this was in 1997. So clinically
Wow.
proficient. And their first goal came in, I don't know, the first minute or so of the match. But they had a standout player, Homari Sawa, who
Sawa, yes, know her. Know that name. Know that name.
at the time was still somewhat young, but she continued to play into her 40s, and she played for the Japanese national team when they went on to the World
Okay.
Championship.
Again,
And
apologize about the technical difficulties. Apologize about that.
am I back?
So getting that taken care of. There we are. All right, and you're back.
Okay, sorry. So Homare Sawa was a incredibly quick player with just a lethal touch. And I remember one time on the pitch, I was playing center mid at the time, and she had the ball, and all I could do was try to foul her to slow her down, but
Wow.
I couldn't even catch her to foul her. That's how fast she was. so I mean, obviously she earned my respect in that match, but she went on to play for another 15 18 years after that. And I've watched the Japanese team grow up. They were always strong in the Asian Federation. They were always strong playing in the AFC, Asian Football Confederation. And then when I got to watch them play in Vancouver, BC, in the World Cup in 2015, I just thought every single player on that pitch now has the speed and the lethally, clinically precise touch of Hamarisawa. And I'm very impressed by them. And they are my pick. They are my pick to take the World Cup this year.
Japan is my pick as well to get to the final. I have to look at the bracket because I don't know, if Jamaica can get to the final without having to play Japan first. But those two, you took that one as well. But my other team that I've been impressed with, and I'm going to say from the last World Cup to this World Cup, most impressed with is Nigeria. Nigeria, their discipline on the ball compared to last World Cup is like, under 16, and in 4 years they're playing under 18 ball. They have been fine-tuned the last 4 years with getting their game and their style of play and their technical ability has really come now forward to put that together with the speed of play. The last World Cup, they were technically forgetting the ball as they're running. They didn't have the technical skill to keep the ball. They were trying to maybe kick it too far forward. You could just see that piece was missing. Now it really hasn't. They, I don't want to give away the score. If you watched the England game, have you watched that game yet?
No, I've not watched any games in the past
Okay, so
36 hours.
Say, but I know that they played England today. I haven't watched it as well. So I know that they're going to give England a good match. And I'm looking forward.
You know what? I just saw the score. I was trying to look up the Nigeria roster and I just clicked on the score. Do you want to know what it was?
Yeah, well, you might as well let me know now. Go ahead, because I'm going to be up at 4 a.m. watching Jamaica. So if I need all the.
Are you sure? I don't want to ruin it for anyone. I just ruined it for myself. But
no, you know what? Don't say the score because we have some viewers out there who might not have watched it. But I know that that Nigeria-England game is going to be serious. So whatever that. So that's
well, it looks like it was serious. It looks like it was serious. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say that's my most improved team. I'm gonna say would be the Nigeria. But
so what leads to a change and improvement like that in such a short amount of time? I mean, we're not talking about a new generation of players, right? So what did Nigeria do that now has them playing like world-class footballers?
Well, I would say it's going to be twofold for any team or country that has players that are getting even better within 4 years. First of all, is going to be the coaching. So either a coaching change, first of all, from the coach, or the system of play would be the second piece for as far as the coaching wise. All right. So one of those two took place. And to me, I'm going to say the system of play. It's a lot simpler for you to think on the ball. Before you had to, get the ball and you had to maybe take on 2 or 3 players. You had to, again, sorry about the technical difficulties. You maybe had to take on 2 or 3 players because these, you as a player didn't know where your teammate was going to be. For me, Nigeria now, they might take on a player or might not have to, but they know exactly where all the players are on the pitch. I'm going to say it's probably a system of play. The next piece of the pie, which is really big, after their last World Cup, these ladies now went to other leagues outside of their country and got top-notch coaching now and fundamentally got sound in their game. Because, as you know, when you step outside of your country to play football, you now are accountable. And your teammates are going to hold you accountable for the level of play that you are bringing to the pitch.
Yeah.
Because if you don't want to be on the bench, you need to show up every single game. Back in Nigeria, these ladies are playing at home. They were the star of the team. They can just show up in Lalagagaron and maybe just, take maybe half the game off sometimes. 5 or 6 of them have gone across seas now and are playing big time football. And I'm going to say the same thing with Jamaica. Jamaica has done very well, the men's and women's team, recruiting players of Jamaican nationality either through parents or through grandparents to come back and play for Jamaica. Very English, diversified team. And the leagues that these ladies play on, the Jamaica goalkeeper, she is a Tottenham goalkeeper in the league. Bunny Shaw up front for Jamaica, she plays for Man City. So you're talking about not just small leagues that these ladies are in. This is big time football that they're playing.
Yeah,
And when you go to
and I
big
would
time,
say, let me just layer on to that when
yeah.
you go off and play in a league or in a country outside of your own, there are two big changes that you have to learn fast that help you develop as a player. One is the pace of play.
Yes,
Anyone looks like a great player when there's no one defending them, or when
that
they
is
have
correct.
15 seconds to take 7 touches on the
Listen,
ball and
you're the
decide where
greatest
they want to
player in
put
the
it.
backyard. You're the greatest player in the
So,
world in the backyard.
sure. So the pace of play going from a league that has an ABC pace of play to a league
Mm-hmm.
that has an XYZ pace of play, that is a big eye opener when you go off to play at the next level, and it makes you a better player very, very rapidly, to your point,
Yes.
GB. And I think the second thing is for most countries is the physicality, the size, the speed, and the strength of your opponent. I know for certain in Guam, we were not accustomed to a very physical style of play. Our leagues on Guam, there are very low contact. There was not a lot of physicality. And when we went
Right.
to play in the Asia competitions against world powerhouses,
Okay.
it was physical. I left our first tournament with a broken tailbone. It was it was
Wow.
it was an important change for us to learn to make very rapidly. So I think
Okay.
what you're saying about the Nigeria players and the Jamaica players heading off to play in non-domestic leagues, I think those are probably the two areas where they're going to improve vastly, very, very quickly.
Yeah. And then, as you stated earlier, as far as the mindset, now you're out of the country. You have to take care of yourself because you have no friends and family around. You might have family, but I mean, as far as your core that you walked this street for 20 years. So back to the mindset now. You're more focused on what you're doing. And really, I think that's the biggest thing. And when you come back to play for your country, those little side nuances that used to bother you, they don't bother you anymore. You don't even see them because your focus is totally different now. You know? So it's great to see. The World Cup is a wonderful thing. Those that haven't seen any matches, you know,
No, there can't be anyone in the world who's not.
so I'll say that there's get on the app for the games. I know there's apps that have the telecast. Kelly will be back here shortly. I know we're having technical difficulties. Something's going on there, but there's apps that have the match replays that you can watch. You can watch the matches. There you are. So you can. I was saying that there's match replays of the entire World Cup on some of these apps that are on the TV, whatever the broadcasters or whatever station you're watching around the world. You can start from the beginning. Just go through or some of my family, what they do is they watch all the highlights from the beginning and just scroll through because they necessarily don't want to watch the whole 90-minute game. They just want to watch their favorite team.
Yeah,
So, but
sometimes
whatever
it's
you,
fun to just watch the highlights.
yeah,
It
whatever
can be
you,
fun.
but whatever you do, watch every single team. I mean, just a highlight
Yes.
or 5 minutes of a game or a half of a game. Watch every single team because every team has a different style of play. And what's unique about it though is the whatever that national team is in this game, which is very,
I'd
very
say it's the
unique.
other way around, but okay.
The style of play for that country, I should say, it correlates together for men and women. Unlike other sports.
Okay.
Our, you know,
So speaking of which, we've gotten 36 minutes into this podcast and we
yes.
haven't addressed the elephant in the room.
Well, I was
We
just getting I was ready to dive into that now that we're done with the country. So Go ahead
Well,
I'm gonna let you ride the elephant in. Go ahead. I'll let
oh,
you
I'm
ride.
riding the elephant in, but I'm slamming it right into you, GB. We have to talk about the US,
Okay.
and I'm going to
Let's do
start
it.
by asking you if there was one thing you could change about the US in this tournament, what would it be? Aside from winning, winning versus losing. Like if there was one thing you could change about the team or the way they perform, what would you change if you had one magic wand?
The style of play. The style of play. Um, it didn't seem to me that everyone was on the same page when it came to decision making on the ball. It seemed that the I mean, it's kind of like we resorted back to the 80s style of football where just kick it on the other side of the pitch just to get it out. And for us to resort to that, that means you're playing nervous football. That means that you're not prepared for all the situations that are coming at you. And here's what happens when that happens. You know, you and I, when we notice someone like that in the back that clears the ball, you are now the weakest link to me on the team. And then we're going to go ahead and come after you because you're the weakest link. If we know you're just clearing the ball down the pitch because you're nervous, we're going to put you in a corner now and back you in and pressure you for you to make a mistake. And a couple of these times I've seen where these teams are running at the back line and we're just either heading the ball out of bounds or we're kicking the ball out of bounds. And if we're heading the ball, we're not heading it to a player. So the style of play is really the biggest thing that I would say change that I see. What did you see as far as what would you change the most?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I think my answer to that question and your answer have some overlap. Um, I think that there was a clear lack, especially in the first three matches. There was a clear lack of chemistry and understanding of each other's tendencies and patterns. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
GB, if you and I step on the pitch, we've played together for 10 years. I know where you're going to go before you even know where you're going to go. And thus I can play the ball there. And the way
Right.
you defend, I understand how you're going to defend. So I know where to support. I thought, did
All
we
right.
glitch?
Again, sorry, technical difficulties again. Sorry about this. We'll get that straight for the next time Kelly comes on. But you know, for now, just bear with us. We've got a good conversation coming on. So, all right, Kelly, you're back.
Okay. Um, I thought that, especially for the first three matches, we showed an incredible lack of chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And for every player's missed shot or, individually failed
Mm-hmm.
defensive tackle, I thought there were 5 to 6 examples of where a small group on the pitch just didn't come together around doing the same thing. But what I
Mm-hmm.
think they corrected for the last match versus Sweden is that on the attack, they did seem to be on the same page. When we possessed the
Yes.
ball, I thought we possessed the ball well. And there were a couple things that still bothered me. I think I think our fear of attacking down the left flank and our desire to try to switch it over to the right flank attack forced us to hit long balls into the middle a little bit too much. That bothered me a little bit, but that wasn't the worst thing. So I think generally we attacked with a little bit more cohesion, a little bit more understanding of each other. But what I thought we still were failing on, and I will blame the result of the match on this. Our overall team defense seemed
Mm-hmm.
organized, but our small group defense, match number
Yes.
1, 2, 3, and 4, small group defending, we
Yeah.
looked like we were chickens with our heads cut off. The first defender would jockey to the right, but the second defender thought we were jockeying to the
Mm-hmm.
left. We would
Mm-hmm.
come in flat and get burned, and the second defender wasn't there yet. Or,
Right.
the first defender got beaten, the second defender stepped up, but the third defender, instead of becoming second defender, went with a long run that was already
Mm-hmm.
defended. I don't understand why we couldn't do better small group defending. And I think that had we done better small group defending, we would have won that match because
Yes.
we would have had possession of the ball even more. But more importantly, we would have had possession of the ball in the middle and attacking thirds instead of picking it up in our defending third. So if there was one, if I could wave my magic, oh, I have many magic wands, but if I could wave one of them, it would be to have gotten the US team playing much better small group defense from the get-go. If not in the first through third matches, then at least for the match against Sweden.
Right, which is the major match. Another, very, very, very well put. Very well put, first of all. I love those points. I'm going to just take a word out of that, what I just stated. Point. The U.S. game, growing up as a child and playing and things like that. We talk a lot during the game, and sometimes we talk too much during the game. And I've noticed in that Sweden game that there was a young lady in the midfield, and she was pointing to the players to tell them where to pass the ball. And I'm saying to myself, why would you point in a game so that the other team knows where the ball is going? I didn't understand that
Name
piece of it.
names. Who was doing it?
She was playing next to Haran.
Sonnet?
Sonnet, yes. Every
I
time the
have a
ball was,
theory.
talk to me, please, because I don't understand why the American footballers, even as a young age when I'm playing as well, why us in America here do we point to where the ball should go?
I
I
think
don't get
that's a symptom of the problems that you and I just defined. The
it.
players
Okay,
don't know each other.
they
She's
don't
pointing
know
to
each
them
other.
because they don't have the chemistry. They don't have the understanding of each other's
Okay.
tendencies. Or, if I make a quarter turn on the ball,
Mhm.
to many of my teammates, that communication. And
All right. Again, just bear with us. Technical difficulties again. Just bear with us here. All right, there you are. You're back.
yeah, so I think that, when you've played with someone for a long time, or you've,
Mhm.
developed chemistry through intentional training, you don't need the verbal in many cases, and you
Correct.
don't need the nonverbal, such as pointing in many cases. And I
Correct.
wonder if she was doing that because she realized they don't know where to put the ball, or they don't know where I'm going to go, or I don't know where they're going to go. So I'm going to give them direction. That could have been a
Right.
symptom of those problems.
Okay. Okay. Because that was just very confusing to me with this pointing. It's like, if you're on a national team and you don't know where you need to pass the ball, I mean, I could see helping out every now and then, but she did this the whole game.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, Sweden is just looking at her like, okay, where's the ball going to go? And they don't have to even worry about marking a player. And it took, it took that player out. So that was just one
How'd you
confusing
feel about
thing
how
for
she
me.
played though? How'd you feel about how Sonnet played in total? I mean, she came in for Lavelle,
She
my
she
favorite
wa-
player.
she, she played herself into the game, I'm going to say. She was better second half than she was first half. And of course, that's being you're brand new on the pitch. You have to get used to the pace of the game. You have to get your nerves back down that, okay, I'm now in the World Cup, I'm playing. Second half, she was really, really tuned in and doing some major defending. Um, I thought, though, however, once again, American players, I don't know why we do this. When we get the ball over the half line, and instead of going forward, they knock the ball back. And she did a lot of that. And to me, that shows nervousness. And back to what you were saying, she doesn't know where to put the ball or who to give it to.
Right.
So what is it? Kick it backwards. And that really just stopped the whole defense of what's going on, because when you have Smith and you have Robin up front, you have pace. You know me. I'm a pace person. I play up front. I like to run, but I need space to run into. So now when you stop the game and knock it backwards, now the whole line of defense and midfield now is back on the 18, walking forward or jogging slowly
Mm.
forward. There goes the attack. There goes the spaces to run into.
You've killed your space. Yeah.
You killed
That
your
was
space.
one of my concerns about in the first half. I think it was their plan. I think this was intentionally the way they were playing the ball. Germa would get the ball in the back. Crystal Dunn would start making a run up the left flank.
Okay.
And instead
Right.
of hitting her into the open space, which she had
Yes.
plenty of, they were
Yes.
then trying to swing it across either to Morgan, making a checking run back or trying to get it
Right.
all the way across the pitch to the right flank. And I wondered if they were doing it so consistently that I thought it was intentional.
Yes.
And I wondered if there was a lack of confidence in the
Okay.
players that dictated that. But it was
Okay.
driving me a little bit crazy because I have a theory. I'm a natural midfielder, but there have been times when I've had to play center back. And when I play center back, well, back when I was in shape anyway, I would make a
Yes.
couple runs through during the game. I'd
Okay.
I'd make runs through. And I always told my players when I was coaching, if your sweeper, if your center back makes a run through, you have to find a way to play them the ball. You cannot treat them like a decoy run for two reasons. Number one, you have to reward the run. I mean, it's really hard for a center back to make that run. And give them the ball. Let them have a little fun too. But secondly, if you lose the ball away from that player's feet, now you
Mm-hmm.
have your best defender pulled way out of position.
Right.
And it's harder to get back when you're off ball as opposed
Correct.
to being
Correct.
near the play and being able to contain and delay and give yourself time to get back. So when
Correct.
Crystal Dunn was making those attacking runs, I thought it's a shame that they're not using her. She's made talent to do something special up there.
All right. Again, apologize about the technical difficulties here. So just bear with us. Hope you're enjoying the telecast. All right, and you're back.
And when that happens, GB, I don't know why. I can still see you, and I can still see and hear you and me.
Yeah.
So I'm very sorry if my internet may be glitching out.
It's all good. We're working through it. We're working through it.
Okay. So here's something that you and I talked about a little bit the past couple days, and that is the older generation players who are still on the women's
Mm-hmm.
national team,
Mm-hmm.
what their role was, what it should have been, where they go from
Mm-hmm.
here, and what the team should do to make a better showing in 4 years.
Right.
So you had some thoughts related to Alex Morgan,
Yes.
and I want to hear those thoughts.
As a central striker, it's two pieces of the pie that you need to do. You need to first of all know how to run at the defense when you have the ball. And you're always going to have two players. You're going to have the two central defenders that you're going to have to take care of. And you should be able to handle those two players and then make a pass when necessary to draw them towards you. So that's going towards goal. The other piece as a striker is playing with your back to the goal. And to be effectively playing with your back to the goal is going forward to help support, and maybe when you see the ball, not necessarily you're not even in the game, go back and go get the ball to make yourself available to kind of break up that little midfield scenario and help out the team going forward. I saw that Alex, I mean, I didn't see her in the game at all. I saw her maybe get kicked down maybe 3 or 4 times. I didn't see anything as far as her beating a player. She did it like in the 6-yard box, trying to score. But as we were really missing that central striker piece and the runs off the ball. I mean, the one run that she did have off the ball, she was offsides. And that was really the only run that I saw her do in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the alley wombats, they were running all the time going across.
Do you think
Hands,
do you think it's
going across.
because she's outclassed on the pitch now, or do you think she's just getting older and not as fast as she used to be and not able to outrun folks to make those runs?
Well, I think it's going to come back to, I think it's really more of a technical ability. You know, her game, like you said, it will speed.
Mm-hmm.
She could get away with the speed, but as far as being technically sound, taking on 2 or 3 players and making an opportunity for yourself, she's a player that she needs a ball fed to her to score. She doesn't create the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you're not going to create the opportunity, like I stated, you need to be drawing fouls for your team. So play with your back towards goal, draw a foul, get a free kick, give your team opportunity. And I didn't see either one of those things happening.
Yeah.
Second, she really has never had pacey wingers on the outside of her. And I think that, as you stated, without playing together so long, she was really drifting into their space. And then, because that's her game. Her game was to go outside and then make a diagonal run back to the center. But when Rodman and Smith had the ball, they were pacey enough to beat those outside defenders. Morgan really didn't know what to do in my mind. She was kind of, okay, which do I go to the top of the 18? Do I come out to meet her? This and that. And, Rodman was sending in lovely balls, but nobody was on the end of them, because she didn't know where to be. Smith, on the other side, being very young, the mindset for her, to me, coming into the game, and really, as we talked about before, off camera, that the mindset for her is that she is still playing in the NWSL. Her mindset is, I'm taking on 2 or 3 players in my home league. I can do the same thing in the World Cup and beat them.
Yeah.
Without thinking of, if I have 2 or 3 players around me, now that means that 2 of my teammates are wide open and I can give them the ball. So if you're ever in a position when you have 2 or 3 players that are looking to maybe take the ball from you, you really need to have the mindset as, wait a minute, if I have 3 players on me, 2 of my teammates are open. Lift your head up, give them the ball, and now dash around those 3 players and get the ball back. I really think that the U.S. game is really missing that give and go. It's such a simple game. Tim Weah uses it lovely. Pulisic uses it lovely. McKennie and Adams, they know when they get the ball from those guys, they give it right back to them because that's their game. They want to attack like that. Use your teammate. They can dance around 2 or 3 players with just 2 passes. The women's national team, they relied on speed, but no one came to do the wall passes. And that's another thing you were saying about the defense, us defending in numbers. We weren't attacking in triangles. It was very open. So it made it easy for the other teams to defend one player when, if you're on the end line, you can stop a pass from the midfield, you can stop a pass going forward because no one's there around that player.
So how much of this, what we've just talked about, and I'm going to get to a point that I made about one player, but it sort of ties into this next question. And that is, how much of this is fair criticism leveled at individual players, and how much of it is critique of the coaching and coaching decisions and approaches to preparation that were made. And I'm asking you that question, but I'm gonna as a way to frame the question, I'm gonna share the thought that I had that I already told you about, which is related to Megan Rapinoe. And no, I'm not going to bash Megan Rapinoe. And no, I don't think it's weird that she smiled at the end.
We're talking football, so go ahead.
And no, I don't think it's weird that she smiled after she missed her PK, because I know what that smile meant. I could understand her thought process being,
right,
well, dang it, that's exactly how my entire tournament has gone, right? But instead, my concern about Megan Rapinoe had been I believe it was after the first match. I said this to you after we played Vietnam. If Megan Rapinoe is going to play at all, she should not be coming in at the 80th minute. And I know this is unconventional coaching, but instead of being a 20 to 30 minute player at the end of the match, she needs to be a 50 to 60 minute player at the beginning of the match, because she has chemistry with the other older players on the pitch. She can help set the style of play and give a character and personality to that match that allows the other teammates to fall into that sort of character with her. It's a lot of pressure to put on an older player to come in the 80th minute and expect them to do something spectacular. And
Yes.
match after match after match, she demonstrated she couldn't do it. Yet the coach kept putting that on her
Yes.
shoulders. And in the final match, if you'll recall, when they played Sweden, her very first touch on the ball, it was a long ball that had gone into the box. She tried to chase it down. She had the opportunity to put a touch on it and pull it in and then maybe get a cross off. But her very first touch sent the ball out of bounds.
Correct.
And she put her head down and she looked frustrated and she sort of did a harumph and was upset with herself. And then the rest of the match went that way for her, culminating in the missed PK.
Yes.
She's an outgoing player. She's retiring. She physically is not as strong as she was 15 years ago. Have her start the game. Have her help players.
Again, apologize about the technical difficulties. Just bear with us. We're getting through this. We're getting through it. So we appreciate you guys being patient with us. All right, Kelly, you're back now.
Have Rapinoe work with the other seasoned players on the pitch for the start of the match for the first half plus maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Let her settle into, over that course of time, the things that she does so beautifully well. And then pull her out and put in the spark plug, whoever the spark plug is. And maybe at that point it should have been Smith. But I thought it was completely unreasonable to expect Rapinoe to come in and save the day. I thought it was completely unreasonable to put in Mewis and Kelly O'Hara in literally the 120th minute and expect them to take PKs. I thought that some of the coaching decisions that were made poorly were very obviously poor, and without any obvious changes being made that weren't necessitated by 2 yellow cards. I'm not sure. I would love to know. I'd love to be a fly on the wall to know what the coach did over the course of our 4 matches to try to make the team better. It wasn't obvious. I couldn't see it.
Now, going back to your point about Megan Rapinoe coming in, late to save the day, technically. What do you assess now for the next for 3 years of qualifying and then going in, as far as style of play for the U.S.? There's been the last 3-4 World Cups where that was the style of play. Bring on the home run hitters at the end of the game. So we see now that technically that doesn't work. Do you think they need to stick with that system as far as bringing in, and I'll put it this way, not fielding your best 11 first to maybe get a lead and then sub them off later? Because that's not what's happening now. So do you think that might change in the future, or do you think that they're going to stay stagnant and keep hit your head against the wall and keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result? What do you think?
Well, you and I have talked about this a little bit. We need a personality, right? We need a style of play in the United States. I think that the women have the potential, the capacity to create that for the country. We have some really brilliant young-ish players who already are on the national team and will be playing for the next 8, 12, maybe 16 years. So, when we look at Williams, Rodman, Smith, Mallory Pugh, others, there's a lot of just raw natural athletic talent there, combined with what I would call the mid-generation players of this tournament. Horan and Lavelle, and I think Sonnet proved herself nicely, who are very stable players. It's nice to have that stability in the middle of the field. I think that we could become a very, very fast team. And if we are a very, very fast team, then we can afford more direct play.
Right. I would really like to see the first 5 minutes of matches for us that we're full tilt pressing and full tilt pressuring on the other side of the ball. And to me, that lets me know that all 11 players are in the game. I would actually state that even coming off of the bus, walking into the stadium, I look at mindsets. I look at facial expressions. I look to see, if someone is jittery or smiling and this and that. And then, of course, knowing that that style of play is for that player, that, it's a different story. But coming onto the pitch and the first 5 minutes of the game tells you exactly what a team is about. And as you stated, we did not look ready to play the first 5 minutes of any of our games. It's kind of like we just wanted the game to just draw into ourselves. And to me, on the bus on the way there, we already had the game won in our head. We're going to win. We're going to step on the pitch, and we're always going to win the game. And this time that didn't work. The mental stature to try and make something happen, but on the bus coming to the game and coming off the bus, pre-game warm-ups, things like that, I didn't see the grit that we're serious about what we need to be doing. What I saw was in their minds, we've already won the game without even playing it yet. Because their mindset was we're defending 2 cup champions. There's no way we're going to lose. So we'll just get out here and just do what we do. So for preparation, mindset wise, that to me, that's a coaching. Because if you're a coach, your team plays the way that you are, in my mind. And for this to go the way it did for the U.S., it's a reflection of the coach. It always is going to fall on the coach. The players aren't going anywhere. They're not going to get canned. It's going to be coming from the top down to the coaching and reassessing what's going on. So if we
Yeah,
are
I
going to
think we'll probably see some coaching changes here.
I was going to ask you. So what do you assess from this coach as far as
Oh,
do
yeah,
you
I mean,
think he will change, or
oh
what
yeah,
do you think?
no.
What do you think?
I mean, I think it's pretty clear. I mean, you go into a tournament like this and you lose, the coach gets sacked.
Okay.
It's gonna happen. I mean, I know the players like him, but it's just a pretty standard process.
So
The good news
who's
is
next? But who's next then if you're going to sack him?
I have no idea. Again, I can't. I don't follow. I don't follow the college or
right.
NWSL scenes closely enough to know
Okay.
who we would be able to pick up. But I know that we still have many great matches to come in this tournament. There are going to be some really phenomenal matches, which is awesome. And I know that the U.S. is going to rebuild, and in 4 years, it's going to be a different team, and we're going to have a great tournament to watch as a U.S. fan. And
Big
speaking
time.
of being a fan, I just want to make sure that we remember this.
Yes.
All right. This is where my heart is. But look at this.
Gunners Nation, Gunner Nation.
I have to
Very nice,
announce it
very
to the world.
nice.
As of yesterday, I've become an Arsenal fan.
Ah,
That just
Gunner
happened
Nation,
yesterday.
welcome aboard, welcome aboard, Gunner Nation. That's awesome. So your family now, as far your family's growing up. They're getting ready to. You're getting into that stage. Where do you see yourself now as far as women's football? Are you going to be trying to get more involved in women's football outside of playing? Or are you still in the mindset that you want to keep playing and maybe just transition into something else as coaching? I'm throwing something off now because, I didn't say I was going to ask you about this. But
You see
what
my
do you
face?
see? Oh, yeah. Yeah, nice and rosy. Yes. Where do you see yourself, within the next 5, 10 years, as far as the women's game that you want to be involving yourself into, if at all any? Or where do you see the women's game for Guam or any other country going forward? Let's talk about that for a second before we clear the air.
Okay. Well, for me personally, first of all, I still love to play. And I think that as long as I can play and have more fun than not, I will. Of course, I've got
Okay.
injuries like most aging players, and I've got to
Okay.
figure out how to deal with those.
Okay.
I don't have aspirations to coach or to referee. However, I also am not opposed to stepping in and helping if a team needs a hand. But I will tell you, I was heading out to play pickup the other day and I was a little bit tired. I didn't really want to go. And I thought, wow, like maybe it's not the right night for me to go play. And then one of the players who normally goes mentioned that he's bringing his daughter. And that gave me the inspiration to want to go play, because when I was playing soccer as a young lady and I played pickup, there were no other women out there playing. And I wish I had a woman to look up to soccer. Am I still with you?
Of course. I mean, why wouldn't you want to not have a woman to look up to playing? You know what I mean?
Yes. So I think that right now, organizing teams to play and being out there playing myself is still what I'm doing for the game. That's a very selfish way of like
Absolutely.
rationalizing
Absolutely.
that, I know. Um, but I think every women's World Cup and every women's Olympic soccer competition, more attention is focused on women's football, and every program gets stronger. And so I think that this World Cup is doing wonders for programs that we don't even have our eyes on right now. And
Yes.
I look forward every year to, what the competitions are going to bring. And I'm happy to be a fan of it. And I'm happy to keep playing as much as I can with teammates like you and, just stay involved in the conversation.
Fantastic. So we're going to get on to some other things as you brought up Gooner Nation. They know that we're a diehard Arsenal fan here. They know that already. Hanging on my back wall, you see my action there. So coming up in the future, as far as the upper 90 uh, cast here, Kelly and I will be doing some things a little bit extra on the side as far as in the future for the telecast. We've got some really big events, some really big announcements coming up that we'll be bringing towards you. The Arsenal Gooner Support Club for the Arsenal club here in Orlando are striving for some major announcements. We're going to have some of the gentlemen on and ladies of the club to actually talk about some things like that as far as football and what's coming around the corner. And then Kelly and I are going to be discussing, of course, off camera, what we're going to be trying to get ourselves involved into. I know uppr90plus in the future, we definitely want to have a soccer camp here in the States and open that up for kids of all ages to come and learn the sport from folks that actually have played at a very high level. So that's coming up, in the future as well. The telecast isn't going anywhere. We were off for a little bit, but we're honing our skills and fine tuning where this broadcast we want it to go. As you know, we've done all the positions. You can check out the previous videos. If you don't know how to play the game, we've done coaching sessions. We've done teaching sessions. Everything is on the YouTube channel as well as the Facebook page, as well as the LinkedIn page. So please do go check out those other videos if you have not watched them. I have family around the world. Kelly has family around the world. We've done interviews with some of my family members that are around the world. Also, too, coming up, I have a cousin that is a trainer in New York City. She's going to be on with us. Yes, I said she. And talking about fitness, talking about health, talking about eating. So we haven't done that yet. We haven't touched base about that. So we've got a lot of great episodes and great tutorials and great more interviews coming up. And Kelly, I appreciate you coming on to discuss about this this evening. This is huge. We really wanted to get this out and just have some folks think about things as far as the women's game. If there's the viewers out there, we thank you for being a part of this. If you missed any parts of it, please go back and play. And again, as you see, football is just not something on the pitch that you just use with your feet and kick around. As you see, it's a very mental game. The conversation that we've had this evening, it's a mental, not just a physical, technical sport. You have to be involved mentally with what you're doing. So, Kelly, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on as a guest of
Appreciate you.
Plus.
Thank you. It's
And
always a pleasure. I love our conversations.
thank you as well. All right, and take care. And all right, for those out there, appreciate everybody's support and share, like, and love the page. And like I stated, future episodes are coming up. We're gonna have a lot more information to bring you. All right, so take care. Signing off. This is GB with uppr90plus. Just wishing everyone a great evening, and hope that you all have a great rest of the week as well. And again, just thanks for the support. We can't do this without you guys. And we, just going forward, we just really, really, thank you. So take care. Signing off.